Wow.
Yeah. So when you research stuff like that, all of a sudden it's like, well, anything is kind of possible.
The problem is most people haven't researched it. So when you're having conversations with people, like I've always been conspiratorially minded, but more in the fun side, like Bigfoot, UFOs, dumb stuff. As a distraction. Like, I know what it is. I'm interested because it's silly, and I just find it fun. Like, the Bigfoot thing is, I watched a Bigfoot documentary the other night against my own better judgment, and now my YouTube algorithm is filled with Bigfoot stories. It's just the dumbest thing ever. But when I started doing the podcast, it slowly shifted my perspective of not only are there real conspiracies, but they're way more prevalent than you would ever think. And you almost have to get lucky to find out about them. Like one of the things from the book Chaos was Tom O'Neill describing some of the documents that were discovered in, I believe it was a storage unit. Where they had some
like the MK Ultra document.
Yes.
Oh yeah.
Do you remember that story?
Yeah, that's a big part of my book. So in 1975 or so, really in 1974, there's something called the Rockefeller Commission, and that was an executive commission set up to investigate past abuses of the intelligence community, and that kind of led to the Church Committee in 1975, and also the Pike Committee in the House. But after they published their final reports, those reports included things about MKUltra, that the U.S. government had performed these secret drug experiments in the past, and that led a former State Department employee named John Marks to file a Freedom of Information Act request, basically for any and all documents related to these former drug experiments. And so, not too long afterwards, a CIA... this guy named Frank Laubinger, he was working in like the CIA archives, but he discovered these 6 or 7 boxes of material that Sidney Gottlieb hadn't destroyed when he retired from the CIA, because Gottlieb incinerated most of his files, and so did Richard Helms. They were in on this together. Right. But it turns out those boxes escaped the destruction because they had been sent to the CIA Records Center several years before Gottlieb and Helms retired. Therefore, they weren't incinerated in this purge, and so they survived. So Marx filed that information request, these boxes were found, and then they were released. And this was right around the time that there were a couple of subcommittee hearings on MKUltra, and that's right when all these documents came out too. So it became kind of a big deal. But so that's how thousands and thousands of documents related to MKUltra survived, even though Gottlieb and Helms incinerated most of the files that they actually had.
Which leads you to consider, what would we know if those documents hadn't been discovered? We would be decades behind on this.
Yeah, they do reveal a lot of information. That said, we can actually kind of run this scenario because we do know what we kind of knew before those documents were released. So before those documents were released, you still had the Rockefeller Commission and the Church Committee and a few other things. But so we would have known still, because it came out before those documents, about the Frank Olson incident. This guy was dosed with LSD at this place called Deep Creek, and he ended up going out the window of the Statler Hotel in New York. He died. We would have known about Operation Midnight Climax, even though I don't know if that name was specifically used within these committee publications. So we would have known.
Such a great name.
Well, that's George White's doing.
Is it?
Sidney Gottlieb said he had a flair with a pen. Like he was a journalist before
Fucking psycho.
Yeah, he was. In fact, while we're on that topic, at the end of Operation Midnight Climax, he wrote a letter to Sidney Gottlieb, basically thanking him for supporting me for all these years. Out of all the MKUltra sub-projects, a lot of them started in 1953. Many of them were done by 1963, but several continued into the late 60s. But he, after this was done, he wrote a letter to Sidney Gottlieb, and in the depositions that I found, the attorneys confront Gottlieb about this, and they ask him what was in that letter. And Gottlieb says, he had a flair for writing. You can't trust anything he said. But no, what was in it? Turns out what was in it, George White wrote, "I toiled in the vineyards wholeheartedly because it was fun, fun, fun. Where else could a red-blooded American boy lie, cheat, steal, rape, and pillage with the sanction and blessing of the All-Highest?"